Hey, good morning. Awesome. Today's the last week. Today's the week that we're going to round off this series called It's Not Me, It's Not You, It's Me. It's not you, it's me. That's the way of doing it. So I thought what we would do today is finishing it off with what I believe is the most important thing that the scriptures say about relationships. We've covered lots of areas over the last 4 or 5 weeks, but I want to sort of finish where we started with what I believe God is saying is the most important thing in relationships. But as I often do, I want to start again with a question for you. And I want you to answer this. You can shout it out if you want, but certainly answer it in your mind. Think about how you might complete this critical sentence. You ready? My number one goal in life is... ... I wonder how you would finish that sentence. My number one goal in life is... Let's just sit with that, and I would love that question sits in your mind as we share over the next 25 minutes or so around what we believe is so important with our life right now. I wonder when you first heard that, you first went to, my number one goal for life is to be happy. I just want to be happy. Or maybe my number one goal is to have just enough money that I don't have to stress and worry about money. Maybe that's my number one goal, is just to have enough to not just survive but to thrive. Or maybe your number one goal is to have a successful career. A career where I can look back and go, I made a difference in the workplace. Maybe your number one goal is to get married. Although after last week's amazing interview that I did with Beck Tesh, and if you weren't here last week, we talked about what the scriptures say about doing singleness well. And if you weren't here last week, it's online. Make sure you check out our podcast, either on the website or wherever you can download any good podcasts. And I did an interview with Beck Tesh, and she talked about what does it mean to do singleness really well. And we looked at what the scriptures say, what the Apostle Paul says about scriptures. But maybe that's your goal, number one goal, to get married. Or maybe it's to have a holiday. Or maybe it's to sail the Greek Isles as your number one goal in life. Or maybe it's just to get to the point where you can retire and take a breath and step away from the 9 to 5 grind. Maybe there's some of the things that first came to your mind, but really, this is a really important question that we need to ask ourselves. Because the way that you answer it will reveal what Pastor Rick Warren refers to as your dominant life principle. The way you answer what your number one goal is in life will show what your dominant life principle is. What is the principle that you live your life by? It's that supreme value in your life which filters all of the choices you make. You may not be aware of it, but we all have this dominant life principle that we have. And the way that we answer questions, the way we live our lives, the direction our life goes, depends on how we would answer that question. Every time you make a decision, you run it through a filter. Not consciously, but subconsciously. That dominant life principle filter. So, let me give you an example. If your dominant life principle is fun, then every choice you make, and that's the filter that you have, what brings you the most fun will be the answer to every question. If it's all about fun for you, then you'll look at all your choices and go, I'm going to do that because that's the most fun. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a way of understanding how the filter works. If your dominant life principle is finances, then you'll choose the most lucrative thing to do every time you have a choice. I'd really love to be at the kids' game, but I just need to be at work because this could be the big deal that I make. Your number one choice here, because your dominant life principle is to achieve finances, then other things will get left behind because that becomes your number one choice. You're following me? You're with me? Maybe not. Okay. What if your number one choice is safety? For some of us, without knowing it, our dominant life principle is safety. We want to be safe. So you're always going to choose the safe options. I'm not going to go on a Go Beyond the Borders mission trip because I'm concerned about what happens in Kenya with the elephants and the lions. Or I've never been overseas before. And so we step back because safety is our number one principle. Or maybe for you, that number one principle is approval. So every choice you make will depend on what other people think of you. Again, you're not consciously doing this, but subconsciously there's something in there. Because this is a major principle in your life, you'll always consider what will other people think. Because it's driven by approval. It's important to answer the question, to know what is the number one goal in my life, because it will influence the decisions that you make. So with that platform in mind, let's look at what God says about this whole idea of what's the number one goal for your life, because he says a lot about it. And the Apostle Paul in the New Testament writes about this a lot as he writes his letters to the church, encouraging the churches, rebuking the churches, challenging the churches to live a Christ-like life. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 13. Most of us know the background of 1 Corinthians 13 because it's a passage about love. But he finishes that significant passage this way. He says, 3 things will last forever: faith, hope, and love. And then he pauses and he says, the greatest of these is love. Paraphrase version says, the greatest of these is extravagant love. It says the greatest of these is to live a life with extravagant love. 1 Corinthians 14, Paul writes a little bit later to the same church, and he reflects God's heart when he says these words. He says, let love be your highest goal. So God just answered our question. What would God say is the number one goal for your life and my life? Clear. He says, let love be the highest goal. So we're going to spend the next few minutes unpacking what would that look like if we turned things around and people approval from others wasn't our number one goal. Achieving success wasn't our number one goal. Being safe wasn't our number one goal. I'm not saying those things are wrong, but they're not our number one goal. It's not the driving, it's not the dominant life principle. What if the dominant life principle for you and I was to love? Love was our highest goal. Not status, not security, not success, not approval, not power, not holidays, not influence, not fun. The scriptures teach us love. See, according to God, all the decisions that you and I make and the life that you and I live should be undergirded by and immersed in love. Now, it's important to understand the definition of love, because we're not talking about that touchy-feely, I feel real love. So, in the Greek, there are so many words that expresses love. So many words that expresses love. And I'm going to talk a bit about that in a moment. But what I want us to understand is love is this place where there is action involved. It's an outworking. It's not a feeling. It's an action that's outworked. So why? Why, God? Why would you say to let love be my highest goal? Well, quite simply, why would God say that? Because God is love. Scriptures don't talk about God has love or God brings love. Scriptures say God is love. God is, by its very definition, is love. So why would God say, I want love to be your number one goal? Because it's an expression of Him. When we live a life that love comes first, we're expressing who God is in our lives and through our lives. Think about it. The ultimate act of love is what Jesus did when He gave His only Son, Jesus. And He allowed His Son to come and live on this earth, to become man, fully man, 100% humanity as well as 100% deity, to live this earth, to feel the pain that we feel, to die the most horrific death on a cross, Jesus. The most horrific death on a cross for you and I. And then to go into a tomb and not stay there, but 3 days later to rise again, that we might have life and have it everlasting, to overcome death and hell. That was the most supreme act of love. Why should love be our number one? Because God is love. I just so appreciate the scriptures and the way the scriptures perfectly depict the outworking of this love. It's not just this great idea, but scripture, passage after passage, story after story, parable after parable. Jesus is showing us what this love actually looks like. I remember there's one moment in Mark chapter 12 where Jesus is walking down the road and he comes across a lawyer. And the lawyer asks him, he says, Lord, what's the greatest commandment? There are so many teachings that God has. Sum it up for me. What should I actually focus on? Taking all the laws and all the scriptures, what should I focus on? And Jesus says, paraphrase, that's really easy. There's 2 things. Let me break it down for you. 2 things. And if you get these 2 things right, you'll understand the purpose of your entire life. Who wants to understand the purpose of their life? Seriously, I don't want to live my life outside of its purpose. So I go, okay, I'm listening to this conversation with Jesus and the lawyer, and I'm going, okay, I want to know this myself. You'll understand the purpose of your entire life when you get these two things. It's called the Great Commandment. Here it is. Check it out. Mark 12:30. You want to know what it is that I should focus on? Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. Verse 31, the second most important commandment is this: love your neighbour as you love yourself. There is no other commandment more important than these two. Now I want you to get this. We talked a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago. There are two parts to this. He gives a two-part answer. He says, vertical, love the Lord your God, and horizontal, love others as you would love yourself. Vertical and horizontal, but it's all based around one word. What's that word? Love. Now, I want you to notice, Jesus doesn't say anything about in the world, nothing in the Bible, there's nothing anywhere that is more important than these two things. He said, these are the most important things you need to know. Love God and love your neighbours. And then he says, if you get these two things, you'll understand why God put you onto this earth in the first place. You'll understand the essence of all relationships is love. Love God, love people. God's saying, let love be your highest goal. Let love be your highest goal. Doesn't matter how much we acquire in life. Doesn't matter how much we accomplish in life. Doesn't matter how much we achieve in life, how successful or famous we become. If we don't have love at the centre, we're missing the purpose for our lives. You see, one day, you and I are going to stand before God. And the scriptures say, we're going to stand before God and he's going to ask us, what did you do with your life? Read another way, did you learn to love me? Did you learn to love others? Did you learn to love me? Did you learn to love others? What have you done with what I gave you? Was love the number one life principle for you? Was it the dominant life principle for you? 1 Corinthians 16:14 just brings it home. Paul just brings it home. He says, let everything you do be done with love. Everything you do. What does that include? What does it leave out? Nothing. Everything we do needs to be with love. As we sit and as we chat, are we expressing love? And again, it's not the touchy-feely love. It's not like, oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. You know, this sort of. That's not the love we're talking about. What he's saying when he's saying love is he's saying with your words and with your actions, would you express something that people feel they are part of something more? Sometimes we need to speak truth with love. So it's not all touchy-feely. Sometimes I love someone so much I'm going to say, hey, I miss you. Where you been? What's going on in your world? How you doing in your relationship? What's going on there? That's a question of love. Tough question for some people to answer if they're going through a tough time, but it's coming from a place of love. I think you're getting it. So think about this. In everything we do, when we're writing our emails, when we're writing our text messages, everything we do is done with love. When we're in meetings and we've got to speak truth, we speak grace and truth together in love. When we're writing Facebook posts or we're responding to Facebook posts, we do it with love. When we're driving and somebody cuts us off, we wave to them with love. When we're having conversations at work and those conversations aren't going the way you want them to, and you know that there's agendas, you speak love into that moment. When you're shopping and you're spending all your money and the person who's taking all your money is rude, you express love in a smile and in the way you live your life. When we worship, the sacrifice of worship. Steve was saying when things are tough and we go, you know what? I'm going to worship with love in everything we do. So what if life is about learning to experience and express love like Jesus did? What if our whole life is a journey of stepping into the fullness of love? And what if anything else is just noise? What if everything else is secondary to experiencing and expressing love in our lives? You see, when we experience the love of Jesus, it changes us. Many of us in this room would say, I know that, Murray. I've asked Jesus into my life, and my life has been changed because of the love that Jesus has brought into my life, because of what he did for me on the cross. And later on today, we're going to give you the opportunity, if you've never thought of accepting Jesus' love into your life, I'm going to give you that opportunity today to accept Jesus' love, this love like no other. And when we do that, something changes in us. See, human love is limited, but God's love is limitless. And when we accept Jesus' love into our lives, he allows us to then express that love into the lives of others. See, someone say, I'm just not a loving person, Murray. That's not about how you're wired. This love that we're talking about is a love that God gives us that we can then express through our words and our actions to others. It's this sacrificial love that God brings. This sacrificial love that becomes where I started, not just love, but extravagant love. It's the love that when there's a crying baby in the middle of the night, you get up and you're tired and you're wrecked and you've got no more energy. But as a mum, you get up and you feed that baby because there's something in you, this extravagant love that says, here's a need right here and I'm the only one that can fulfill it. And so I am. Or there's an elbow to the husband who gets up to help by bringing the baby to the mum. Luke's timing is perfect. Look at this. He walks in, nursing the bubs. Got a captain. Mate, you owe me big time. You got big props right there, buddy. Sacrificial love is and I was thinking about this. What's totally sacrificial love? It's that time where your friend is sick and they're throwing up and you're the one holding the spew bucket and you're holding the hair back. And you're smelling and you're seeing and it's getting on you. And there's that sacrificial love. Oh, I'd rather just walk away and I'm not sure what's going on, but you just look up. No, it's stepping into that moment. Sacrificial love is hearing what's going on with red frogs and going, I'm going to make a difference here. I'm going to step into this. I'm going to be part of this. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to help out. Sacrificial love is when you get that rude cashier and you don't respond with what he or she deserves. You respond by giving them kindness and love. Sacrificial love is seeing someone you don't know and seeing a need and providing a need for them. It's this same sacrificial love that Jesus writes one of the most powerful passages. Jesus teaches us to love our neighbour. He says this in Luke chapter 10. I love this. I love the picture because it's all well and good to say sacrificial love. Yeah, I hear those things. What does God truly say about this? Here it is. Many of you have heard this story and I want you to grab it for yourself because I want you to understand it. The man wanted to justify his actions, so he asks Jesus, who is my neighbour? Jesus has just said, love God, love your neighbour as yourself. And the man says, well, okay, what does that look like? Who is my neighbour? And Jesus replies with a story. A Jewish man was travelling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. These bandits stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead by the side of the road. By chance, a priest came along. By chance, a pastor came along. And when he saw the man lying there, what does he do? What does this religious man do? Scriptures say he crosses to the other side of the road to walk around, to pass by him. Then a temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there. A Christian, if you like, in today's terms, walks past and sees him lying there. But he also passes on the other side of the road, sees the need and walks away to the other side of the road. And then in verse 33, as Jesus tells this story, he says, then a despised Samaritan. You see again, for those who don't understand, Jews and Samaritans never mixed. The Jews despised the Samaritans. So they never mixed, they never spoke, they would never be in the same place. Now it's the Jew who's been beaten up. It's the Samaritan who's supposed to not come anywhere near the Jew. Get this. A despised Samaritan came along, and when he saw the man, he felt compassion for him. And the scriptures say, going over to him, in other words, crossing over the road to the need, whereas the others, the religious, walked away, crossed the road away from the need. They walk across to the need, and the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn. So he didn't just go, okay, there's a need here, let's bandage him up. Okay, you're all good? Okay, on your way. No. He bandaged him up. Then he takes him and he put him on his own donkey and took him to an inn where he took care of him again. So he stays with him. Take care of this man. And he says to the innkeeper, the next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, take care of this man. If his bills runs higher than this, I'll pay the next time I'm here. Are you getting this? Samaritan, Jew, never met each other, supposed to hate each other. The Jews looked down on the Samaritans. And this guy says, no. Extravagant love. Extravagant love. Now, which of these three would you say was a neighbour to the man who showed him mercy? Jesus asks. Then Jesus said, and the man replied, the one who showed him mercy. And Jesus said, yes, now go and do the same. What a beautiful picture. What a beautiful picture of most people who you would expect would be there to help, cross the other side of the road and pretend like they didn't see the need. And the one whom is despised by the person who's been bashed walks across to the need and goes above and beyond. Extravagant love. You see, love crosses the road. Love sees a stranger, sees an enemy, sees a friend and expresses love. I love the Hebrew word of this love when it says love thy neighbour. The Hebrew says thou shalt love to your neighbour. If you unpack love, it says, that passage actually says, love to your neighbour. Do you understand what that means? Action. It doesn't mean love, oh, I'm really sorry. Are you okay? I'm really sorry. I'll pray for you. You're good now, I've prayed for you. No. It's love too. I'm bringing action with my love. Church, we've got to get off our seats and we've got to get on the streets. What does that mean? It means when we see a need, step into the need. Seek opportunities to express love in every situation and in every circumstance. So let me ask you, how extravagant is your love right now? How extravagant would God say your love is right now? This love that in the Greek, I mentioned to you before, this love in the Greek is what's referred to as philia love. Philia love. It's the love that in John chapter 13 we read, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples, by the way you love one another. This filial love, this expression of love to one another that has action to it. So I wonder if I asked you to do a little self-assessment of how extravagant is your love right now to the people in your family, to your husband, to your wife, to your kids, to your parents, to God, to your relatives, to your workers, to your neighbours. I wonder each of those where you would say my extravagant love sits. See, when we express extravagant love, people begin to experience the love that God flows through us. When we express extravagant love, people don't just see us, they see God in us. You want to know how to spread your faith? Share, tell people about Jesus, but show them through living life with extravagant love. We love others because Jesus first loved us. After we receive God's love, after we receive Jesus' forgiveness, Jesus just says, now I want you to express this love to others. As I've loved you, so go and love one another. So often we think, well, Murray, I've got gifts in so many other areas that I can use where people will see God at work. Well, Paul speaks into this too. That first part, the first verse in chapter 13, where he sets up the passage, he sets up that chapter around love. I love this powerful image Paul writes. He says, if I could speak all the languages of the earth of the angels, but didn't love others, I would only be a noisy gong. I'd only be a clanging cymbal. You might be the most gifted speaker, most powerful leader in your workplace, but this is what it sounds like when there's no love. You could be leading and you could be driving and you could be trying to do things, but nobody's going to hear you because all they're going to hear is a clanging cymbal. Don't you love the picture that Jesus paints there, or Apostle Paul paints. He says, whatever you do, however powerful your life is, if there is not love undergirding what you're doing and how you're living, this is what people are going to hear. This is what people are going to see. I should be a drummer. What do you reckon? Just join the song. Woo! Always wanted to do that. See, nothing you say matters. It's all just noise. Apostle Paul says, if you live life without love, it's empty. It's deafening. It's annoying. Anyone getting annoyed yet? Yeah, I'm getting annoyed myself. It's without love, it's just annoying. It's a waste. It's a noisy gong. Apostle Paul says it's a clanging cymbal. Verse 2 says, if you have the gift of, I love it. He doesn't just stop there. He keeps going. He says, if you've got the gift of prophecy, if I understood all of God's secret plans, if I possessed all knowledge, if I had such faith that I could move mountains, but I didn't love others, just like a clanging cymbal. If you're gifted, if you're smart, if you're faith-filled, but you don't actively love others, then you are a clanging cymbal to the world. That's what we hear. We're a clanging cymbal to the world. Yeah, but Murray, God's called me to live a life this way, and God's called me to be strong, and yes, He is. But any of that, strength, certainty, strong leadership, servanthood, it doesn't matter what it is. If love doesn't undergird what it is, Scripture says it's just like a clanging cymbal. And I know you're getting annoyed because I'm getting annoyed. And that's the point that Paul's making. Your life is annoying to God and to the world if you don't undergird all that you do. If your number one life principle isn't love. Yeah, but Murray, I'm a good person. I give and I support and I've been on mission trips. Verse 3. If I give everything I have to the poor and even sacrifice my body, I could boast about it. But if I didn't have love, I would be gaining nothing, just like a clanging cymbal. See, Paul's saying, enough? Paul's saying, what's your motive? What's driving your life? What's your number one goal? What's the undergirding in all that you do? The point he's making is, without love, whatever we do is useless. It's not effective without love. Let's be honest. Sometimes it's easier to write a cheque than to roll up our sleeves and get involved in the messiness of someone's life. But God's saying, don't be a clanging cymbal. Let love be your highest goal. So if your motive in giving is love, if your motive in preaching out is love, what's the motive? What's the key thing that drives everything? This spring, Highlands, this summer, let's intentionally decide to be more loving. Let's intentionally decide that love will be at the centre of what we do. Let's make love our dominant life principle for the rest of our lives. I would love, what this is saying is, at the end of my days, I want people to say, oh, Murray, he made a lot of mistakes. I don't want them to say that, but they will. He made a lot of mistakes. He did a lot of things. But man, that guy lived with extravagant love. The love I saw, the way he expressed his love to his wife and his kids, the way he loved his church, the way he loved his neighbours, the way he loved his family, the way he loved his friends, the way he loved people he didn't even know. Do you know, I saw that time when he, and you don't do it for people to see, but you know, I saw that time when he ... That's what I want people to say about me. Why? Because that's what God says. Let your life, let love be your highest goal. On Sundays, throughout the week, church, let's let Highlands Church be a church that's known for the way we love God with passion and enthusiasm and openness and freedom. And let's be known of a church that love our neighbours with passion and enthusiasm and freedom. 3 things will last forever: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. So as we close this series about relationships, it's not you, it's me. What if the one thing we take away from this, if not so many others each week, is that I'm going to seek to love like Jesus loved. Let's pray.